guys, it's Angela, and today I'm going to be telling you about all the books I read during the month of May. But before I get into this, I did want to briefly talk about the importance of the Black Lives Matter movement and what you can do to help. I've been really vocal on my Twitter, but I haven't uploaded since the death of George Floyd. Therefore, I haven't said anything yet here on my YouTube, and I feel like if I'm going to be vocal on my Twitter, I need to be vocal here on BookTube as well. So I encourage you to please check my description box down below, as I'm going to have a lot of helpful links and petitions that you can sign and ways that you can help. I know personally I would love to be out there protesting, but because of my health and my upcoming procedure, that's just not an option for me right now. But with that being said, there are so many different things that you can do from home. Of course, you can donate, but if you're not in a financial position to do so, one of the best things you can do is sign a lot of petitions. You can send emails. I'm going to have those things linked down below. There's a video that you can watch, and all of the AdSense will be donated towards the Black Lives Matter movement. And this video is great because you can just watch it multiple times. If you just watch it once and then you just want to have it on while you're getting ready or even before you go to sleep, just to get that revenue for Black Lives Matter, I think that that's a really good idea. I'm also going to have a list of Black booktubers that was compiled by Mayana from the channel Mayana Reads. And I encourage you not only to subscribe to these creators, but also to watch their videos and comment and be active and give them love and uplift them during these really difficult times. So with that being said, please check the description box, and now let's get into the books I read during the month of May. So during the month of May, I read a total of 13 books, which broke down to 4,931 pages. For my star ratings, I have 4 3-star books, 5 4-star books, and 4 5-star books. I'm really happy with my reading month and just how everything went, considering that I was doing finals and stuff. So as per usual, I'm going to start with the 3-star books and work my way up to the top. Now, the 4 3-star books I have to talk about today are all thrillers, so if you're not into thrillers, I'm sorry, you can skip ahead, but if you are, well, here's 4 of them. Also, for me, a 3-star book isn't a bad rating. It's just a middle-of-the-road, good, solid book. So these might be thrillers that you enjoy. The first one is The Girl from Widow Hills by Megan Miranda. I received an e-arc of this via NetGalley and was super excited to read it. This book follows a girl named Arden who has a past with sleepwalking. And when she was younger, she sleptwalked during a storm and was swept away into a storm drain. She was stuck in that storm drain for, I think, 2 days before she was rescued, and this became a huge thing in their small Kentucky town. And so now in the present, Arden just wants to move on and move forward and not be known as the girl who was in the storm drain in Widow Hills. So she moves away to pursue her new life, changing her name and doing all that sort of stuff. And then her mother passes away, and she starts sleepwalking again, and the mystery of the past and sort of what happened, all of those things come up to the surface. And yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I think that the last 30-40% of the book was the most interesting because that's where we were really finding out about stuff. The ending is also pretty abrupt too, which is like a hit or miss for some people. Overall, I thought it was interesting, and it was just a solid thriller, but not anything super special. Next, we have In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. So during 2020, I randomly decided that I want to read all of Ruth Ware's backlist, and this was the last book on her backlist that I had to read, and I gave it 3 stars. As I've said before when talking about Ruth Ware on my channel, I always recommend her audiobooks if you're into audiobooks because they're phenomenal. They're all narrated by this English woman named Imogen Church, who has a lovely accent and does a lovely narration. And I think her narration has made me even enjoy Ruth's books even more, and they've just added to the experience. So I always recommend them. So In a Dark, Dark Wood follows a woman named Nora who randomly receives an invitation for sort of like a bachelorette party for a friend that she hasn't spoken to in years. And so she's really confused why she's being added to this list, and it's like only like 5 or 6 people, so it's quite small and intimate. And the bachelorette party takes place at a house in the woods, and yeah, that's sort of all you need to know going into it, is that they're sort of estranged and she's sort of confused. Overall, I thought this was solid. It was good. definitely slow, and I think listening to it on audio helped me get through it. I definitely did predict some of the twists, but overall I thought it was solid. Next up is The Other Misses by Mary Kubecka, and I had no intention of picking this up during the month of May. I just saw it on script and I was like, that looks interesting. And I think it's being adapted into something on Netflix, like a movie or a show, I don't know which, but anyway, I thought it looked interesting. So this book follows this woman named Sadie who lives with her husband Will on an island, and I thought that was really interesting. I really liked the setting of them living on an island, so for that reason I think that right now is the perfect time of year to pick this book up because of the setting. Also, Will's sister has just recently committed suicide, so of course there's a trigger warning for that. And she had fibromyalgia, and I really liked the discussion of fibromyalgia throughout this book and how sort of misunderstood it is, and I just really liked that representation. But anyway, Will and Sadie are living on this island with their 2 boys and Will's niece, who doesn't really want anything to do with them. She's a whole mystery in herself. Anyway, so this woman named Morgan, who's like next door, is killed, and Sadie becomes really interested and intrigued with this murder, and the story follows from there. There's a trope in this book that is really hit or miss for some people. I'm not going to say what it is, of course, because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was solid, it was entertaining, it was fine. And my last 3-star book is Triptych by Karen Slaughter. And I read Pretty Girls and Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter and loved them. So, like with Ruth Ware, I wanted to read more of her backlist. So there's some books that she has out more recently in the Will Trent series that I'm interested in, but I figured I'd start with the first book, and so that's what Triptych is. It's the first book in her Will Trent detective series. And this book is just as dark and is just as gruesome as Pretty Girls and Good Daughter, so please keep that in mind if you're interested in picking this book up. This book follows the brutal murder of women who are like, it's bad, okay? It's graphic. It's Karen Slaughter, it's graphic. If you've read Pretty Girls, then you sort of have an idea. I mean, these women, parts have been taken from them. It's really bad and really dark, and there's this detective named Will Trent who was trying to solve the case. And I thought it was really interesting that Will Trent had dyslexia, and he talked about, his struggles with dyslexia, while being a detective, struggling with reading and writing, and so I thought that representation was really cool and well done. And overall, it was just a solid first book in a series. I plan to continue, I just don't know when. But yeah, those are all my 3-star books. So now into my 4-star books. These next 4-star books I'm going to talk about, it's a trilogy, and I'm saying they're 4 stars, but they're probably more like 3, but I'll tell you why I gave them 4. And those books are Defiant King, Steel Princess, and Twisted Kingdom by Rena Kent. I stumbled upon these on Kindle Unlimited, and I read them all in like a day because they were just really fast and addicting. And this is a really dark bully romance that is set in the UK. So there's a plethora of trigger warnings that come with this book. I would definitely go on Goodreads and sort of read them all because, like I said, this book is really dark and it's really just dramatic and over the top. And this follows Elsa, who is a girl in the UK, and Aiden, and they go to this elite school, and Aiden is sort of the king of the school, and Elsa's just the girl that just like started going to the school because her parents are dead and she's living with her aunt and uncle, who she calls aunt and uncle. Like, I don't even remember what their names are because she strictly refers to them as aunt and uncle, which I thought was interesting. I've never really read that before, and I was like, okay. Are these books a masterpiece? No. Definitely like decently written, but there were some things that I noticed. But the reason I gave them 4 stars is because the girl in this book, Elsa, has a heart condition, and that wasn't disclosed in the synopsis or anything. I had no idea that that was going to happen when I started reading it, but she does, and it's something that is similar to my own, and she talks about her past surgeries and her fears for the future and her fears for needing another surgery, which is something that is very real to me and is something that I'm literally dealing with right now as I'm getting my 4th invasive procedure at the end of this month. So I really related to that aspect, and I felt that her heart condition and her fears and her anxieties, it was all represented really well. And that's basically why I gave it a 4-star instead of a 3, just because it was my first time reading something like that and I really deeply connected to it. But yeah, overall, I mean, these are, like I said, over the top, so they're not going to be for everyone. But this was a fun, crazy ride, and there's also like a mystery element of what happened to her parents, and so that was interesting. My next 4-star book is another NetGalley arc, and that was The Lucky Ones by Liz Lawson. And this book features 2 characters and a school shooting, the aftermath of a school shooting. So first we have May, who was the sole survivor in the band room during a shooting that took place at her school 11 months ago, and her twin brother died during that, and she was in the closet, and the killer literally saw her and spared her, so she's dealing with the grief of her brother and survivor's guilt, and she is really angry. And I really liked the way that the author chose to represent grief through May, because grief is something that everyone handles very, very differently, and May was just very angry about everything, but she also was suffering from panic attacks and PTSD. And if you look at her, she's probably not necessarily a likable character just because of her attitude and her attitude towards those around her who want to help. She's very I don't want to talk about it, I'm just mad. And I thought that was done really well, and I really enjoyed seeing her growth through the book and her acceptance. And then we follow Zach, whose mother is representing the school shooter in court, and because of that he's basically ostracized. No one wants to talk to him. They don't want to talk to the son of the lawyer who is defending the person that killed a bunch of their friends, which rightfully so. And Zach doesn't understand why his mother would make this decision. He's very angry with her. The living circumstances at home are just not good, and this book was so powerful and it was just so moving, and I really, really enjoyed it. And this is definitely a book that I think a lot of people should read, and I really, like I said, liked how different people handled grief differently. I thought that was really realistic. Also, May was really funny too. She made me laugh. I thought she was great. I loved her as a character. And yeah, I would highly recommend this book. It came out in April. And my last 4-star book is Evergreen Volume 1. There are 4 volumes in this series, and this follows a boy who has a heart condition, and because of that, he can't participate in gym class normally, so he stays after school to swim so he can still get that high school gym credit. And while he's there, he runs into this girl on the front who he's been lusting after forever and has just wanted to be her friend. And she teaches him sort of how to swim and helps him in gym class. And again, this was something that I really related to. He has a really big surgery scar. I assume he got open heart, and he's very insecure about that. And he just has trouble just coming to terms with things. He feels like he's less of a person because of his heart, specifically less of a man, and although he's in high school, but still you get what I mean. And that part, all the heart stuff in this book, I really connected with, and I just thought this was a cute and a fun first book in a series. And now into my 4 5-star books. First, starting out with Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is one of the 20 books that I wanted to read during 2020, and I'm so happy I picked this up because, oh my goodness, I loved it. I understand all the hype that surrounds this book because it truly was amazing. Essentially, this book follows the 4 March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, throughout the course of their life, and I listened to it on audio, and I really enjoyed that experience, and definitely think I'm going to pick it up again. Also, a few months ago, there was a new Little Women adaptation featuring Timothée Chalamet, and then there's the older one featuring Winona Ryder, and then there's a BBC series featuring Maya Hawke, who plays Robin in Stranger Things. Again, we know I'm trash for Stranger Things, so I plan to watch all 3 of those adaptations this summer. I just loved this story so much, and this is definitely a new fave. Why did I say fave? I've never said fave out loud, and I don't really know how I felt about that. Anyway, the next book I have is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Again, another classic. And I don't even know how to describe this book. It's dark and gothic, and we follow Jane Eyre and this man, Mr. Rochester. and we follow her life from childhood to adulthood. And this is a lot of people's favorite, and like I get it now because it's definitely one of mine too. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and if you're into like gothic literature, then I would recommend it. The next 5-star book we have is a thriller, and that is What Lies Between Us by John Mars. And oh my goodness, this book really knocked my socks off. I've never read a book that has so many plot twists. I mean, it was like plot twist, plot twist, plot twist. I had no idea where the story was going or where it was going to end up. I felt like I was just being strung along for the ride, and it was great. I would highly recommend it. So this story features 2 women, Nina and Maggie. And Maggie is Nina's mother, and Maggie is chained upstairs and in Nina's house, and Nina like lets her come down once a week or something for dinner to have together, and then that's it. She like leaves food outside of her door. She's held prisoner in her daughter's home. So initially you're like, oh my god, that's horrible, and you obviously want to be on Maggie's side because you feel bad for her because she's like being held against her will. But then as the story goes on, you don't even know whose side you're on. You don't even know who to support. This book is wild. There's a lot of secrets between these women. Like I said, there's a lot of plot twists. There are a lot of things that get brought up to the surface, and I loved it. This was my first John Mars book, and oh my goodness, I need to buy a copy, and I would highly, highly recommend it. And my last 5-star book is Anything You Can Do by R.S. Gray. And this is a hate-to-love romance, or enemies to lovers, and it was absolutely fantastic. This book follows Lucas and Daisy, who have known each other since childhood and hated each other since childhood. It's like no secret that like these two like hate each other. It's no surprise. And so they both move away to go to college and both become doctors, and then they move back to their small town, both with the same goal of taking over the local doctor's small practice as he's retiring. So what turns into what they thought was going to be a competition ends up that the doctor wants them both to take over the practice. So he's not going to pick one over the other, but he wants them both to work at the practice. And this book was just so good. This is my second R.S. Gray books. She's so funny, and the way she writes enemies to lovers is just perfect. And I loved this book so much. So those were the 13 books that I read during the month of May. Overall, it was a really good reading month. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video of me being outside, and let me know if you want more outdoor videos in the future. Like I said, please check my description box down below, sign those petitions, donate if you can, and go subscribe to all those channels in Mayana's playlist and watch their videos and show them love and just support them during this difficult time. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and as always, have a good one.